Back on my grizzly again. Back on my grizzly again. Back on my grizzly again. Back on my grizzly again.
Yo, welcome ladies and gentlemen to episode 2 of the Dishhhtribute podcast. I am your host, Damon Geis, and we have an exciting second episode lined up for you guys. In the NBA, we'll discuss the results from Game 1s of Round 1 along with predictions for Game 2s. In the NFL, we'll revisit Russell Wilson's contract situation with the Seahawks, as today not only marks the beginning of off-season programs for NFL franchises, but also the deadline Wilson has given the Hawks to give him a new deal. Speaking of deals, we'll also go over Adam Thielen's contract extension, and I'll rank my top 10 wideouts heading into the 2019 NFL season. Lastly, we'll end things with the WWE, as tonight's Monday Night Raw will start off the Superstar Shakeup. To start the show, though, we look to Tiger Woods. Yesterday, along with some great NBA basketball, Twitter exploded as Tiger won the Masters. This marks Tiger's first Masters win since 2005 and will go down as his 5th overall. This Masters win for Tiger shows a tremendous comeback journey, as he has had obstacle over obstacle to deal with. We'll disregard that cheating scandal. We'll look at the injuries. In 2011, you have a sprained MCL, 2012 an Achilles injury, 2014 his first back surgery, 2015 his second back surgery, and then 2017 his third back surgery. So again, after all the injuries and the mental and physical strain that it takes to get past those injuries, you just have to give it up for Tiger. Just a tremendous comeback story. You can look to the sports world and the feedback that they gave him. Michael Phelps was on the scene looking just as intense as Tiger. Donald Trump even made sure to congratulate the all-time great. And even Steph Curry called it the greatest comeback in sports on Twitter. Now, I believe LeBron would like a word coming back down from 3-1. But nonetheless, all seriousness though, congrats to Tiger. Back on top. Switching over, we're going to jump right into things in the NBA. And we're going to break down Game 1s of Round 1. We'll start with Saturday's games. Sixers and the Nets. The Nets, man, just playing with that underdog mentality. You love to see it. I mean, this is a team that, made arguably the worst trade in NBA history with the Celtics. Had to trade for a young star in deloading. You have guys around him that nobody thought anything of coming into the league. Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. So you just look at what that team has come from, and you really get excited for the future. I just hands off to the Nets. I did have Philly taking them in 5, but I still have Philly winning the series. But I'm very, very, very intrigued by what I saw in Game 1. You got to give it up for the Nets. I mean, just very excited for what their future holds. Now switching over to Philly's side, one word that I would use to define them is unmotivated. I believe they thought the Nets maybe were just going to lay down. Embiid was a game time decision, ended up calling it as he was going to play, and you just didn't see that drive. The only person that really brought it was Jimmy Butler. It's kind of frustrating seeing how everyone has picked Philly to be the juggernaut out east and compete with the Bucks. Myself, I have Boston, but nonetheless, everyone considers Philly to come out, over Toronto, of course, over the Nets this series. So you just hate to see it. You hope that they turn this into, tonight that they'll turn it on. And I believe that starts with the Philly crowd. You have, a young core, guys who made it to the playoffs last year, but Philly has to remember it's not like they've been great for so long and they're used to seeing great highlight plays and winning. It's a process. Not to be cliche, but it's a process. So when Ben Simmons, is struggling shooting, you don't boo him. I can look at that Bucks game yesterday. Even though they did dominate from start to finish, Giannis was stepping up to take shots, and the crowd was cheering as he did it. And that makes a player feel good. So I think the Philly crowd needs to be more supportive, but I also think the players need to feed off that energy rather than after the game talk about, we don't need this from the crowd. If you're going to do that, stay on that side. Be together. It's a city of love. Because when you go to Brooklyn's crowd will be turned. The bench mob of the Nets will be turned. So you do need to make sure that you grab this game in Philly, game 2, or you will be in trouble. Moving on, you have Raptors and Magic. Now the Magic did upset the Raptors in game 1. Down to the wire, DJ Augustine with the big go-ahead 3. When I look at the Magic, man, I just think, they've arguably been playing the best basketball in the league since the All-Star break. And you look at their roster and they don't have a star. Vucevic, yeah, he's an all-star, but you can go back and look at that game. DJ Augustine took over. He was the one that hit the go-ahead shot. So when you look at that Magic team, it's that wild card factor. You don't know what they can bring to the table. And for a team like the Raptors, I believe that can be very problematic. Just seeing how, there's always this aura around Toronto. Well, we know what happens in the playoffs. And then they have a team that they have to play that no one knows what to expect of game in and game out. It's a very dangerous situation. Watching the game, I believe something that was very highly touted was the length of the Magic. You look at Jonathan Isaac, long. You look at Aaron Gordon, long. You look at Vucevic. Those guys are running off the perimeter, shooting big-time threes. In Isaac and Gordon's case, bringing the ball up and stuff like that. You also have Terrence Ross, who's played in Toronto before, dropped 50. So, you have guys who are not afraid of the moment. And you saw that in game 1. So I believe the Raptors will need to turn it on tonight. The crowd will need to bring it in Toronto. I do believe they'll come out with the win. But I do think that if they go down 2-0, we could have a chance of an upset in this series as well. Next game from Saturday, Warriors and Clippers. We all know pretty much what to expect with the 1 seed out west. KD, Curry, Clay, Boogie, Draymond. It's too much. Now, I do like how the Clippers made it a competitive game. You always know what Patrick Beverly is going to bring to the table. Like KD said, those guys from Chicago are just chippy. That's how he came up. That's his image, and he's going to abide by it. KD, you love to see stuff like that. But the game can only be so competitive for so long. You have too much with Golden State. In addition to that, is this the year Curry finally wins his finals MVP? I personally don't think so, because I don't think they will get there. I do have Houston beating them in the second round. Nonetheless, though, I do believe if they can get past Houston, the team will play in order for Curry to win that finals MVP. Similar to what they did last year, but KD was just too good by the time Game 4 ended. The dude just dropped 45, then he had a triple-double in Game 4. So they're going to make sure that they do what they need to if they get to that point, that it's Curry's finals MVP. But I don't know, man. This first round is going to be a cakewalk. I also said that, Houston will beat Utah in 5. So hopefully Houston could be well rested as well. But I just think the Warriors are going to be sitting there after 4 games with the Clippers and just ready for whatever Houston is going to be bringing. So I'm really excited for that series. Switching over to Sunday's games, you have Celtics and Pacers. Now, the Celtics, my pick out East. I really liked what I saw. Not so much in the first half. I was very disappointed in the first half because I just felt like, with Boston, they just have so much talent. You look at Kyrie, arguably, definitely in my opinion, the best guard out East. Been there, ready for the moment, has run the Eastern Conference for with LeBron, so he knows what it feels like to be that guy. You also have those guys who went to 7 last year in the conference finals, and I just believe this is Boston's year. I really do. I don't think they'll win it all, but I do believe that they'll represent the East. I just look at the depth that they have. You look at Marcus Morris. So when you look at Boston, you already know what Kyrie's going to bring to the table. You already know what the Mr. Consistent Al Horford is going to bring to the table. But then you have so many wild cards that it's hard to really determine who you want to take out next. I believe Jason Tatum needs to go ahead and start taking those big shots, which he did. You saw that in the fourth quarter. He just started stepping up, taking isolations and hitting big mid-range shots and pull-up threes. Tatum was showing out. You also have Marcus Morris, who, you're expecting Marcus Morris to get his, but when Marcus Morris goes for 20, there's not much teams can do. You already have to account for Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown and Scary Terry Rozier. And when Marcus Smart comes back, now that he has a little 3-ball in his game, teams have to respect it. So with Boston, you just continue to see this confidence build game by game. When you watch Boston on your screen, it makes you say, who can beat this team 4 times? And I don't believe anyone can. Not out east. Blazers and Thunder. I would say this was the best game of the weekend. Very excited for where this series is going. When Dame pulled up from half court to start the game, I was like, yeah, this series is going to be something special. The Blazers hit 7 threes in the first quarter. Got off to a pretty sizable lead, but then OKC made it close. Then you look to the fourth quarter. Now, PG had been struggling all game. When I say all game, I mean all game. And that, it really makes you think about the name Playoff P, because this is where it's supposed to bring it. Now, I understand the shoulder injury and everything like that, but with PG, you're a top 5 MVP candidate this year. You have to bring it. This is where the stars are made. No excuses. I understand the shoulder injury, but you fight through. At the end of the day in game 1, Portland just shot OKC lights out. You look at the 3-point margin, it was ridiculous. And we don't even have to talk so much about the team. The team stats were really bad. When you look at the box score, OKC went 5 of 33 from downtown. Paul George 4 for 15 from three-pointer. Russell Westbrook 0 for 4. Dennis Schroeder 0 for 7. So you have your top 3 options going 4 for 25 from 3, which you can't have. Then the only other person on the team to make a 3 was Terrence Ferguson. You can't have that. In addition to that, something you can't have is Enes Kanter beating Steven Adams down low. Beating Steven Adams down low. You have that big brother, little brother dynamic. You know what Kanter is going to bring to the table offensively. But just to have him do it against Adams the way he did it, 20 points, 18 rebounds, you can't have that if you're Steven Adams. You're basically the nucleus of this team. You know that Westbrook is the leader and the point guard, but when teams go on a run, Adams gets a big block, or he'll get a big dunk off a pick and roll. So Adams cannot consistently be. I'm watching this game and I'm seeing Enes Kanter get tip out after tip out, or grab a rebound and put it back up. I'm like, where is Steven Adams? And he's right there in the game, just inbounding the ball after, another offensive possession for the Blazers. So we just can't have that if you're OKC. Adams has got to dominate the boards. You got to get good looks from 3, because Portland made theirs count from 3 yesterday. And they're not just pulling from right at the 3-point line. I'm looking at Dame pulling from the parking lot, 5 from 11 from 3. You also have C.J. McCollum, 3 for 7 from 3. Seth Curry, 2 for 3 from 3. Rodney Hood hit a 3. So I'm just looking at Portland, and I think OKC. Well, I had OKC actually losing game 1 and game 2, and then after that running the table. I know that's very dangerous, seeing how momentum is something that you do want in the playoffs. But I just believe that OKC crowd will bring it in game 3. But as far as game 1 is concerned, you just can't have Steven Adams getting dominated down low, and playoff P has to show up. Next, Bucks and Pistons. I mean, what else can we say? Complete dominance with no Blake, who is also, news is coming out that he's probably going to miss the entire series. Now, if you're Dwayne Casey and the Pistons, you're going to fight, but you can just watch that game yesterday and tell that the Bucks are on a whole nother level. I mean, to me, the Pistons aren't really that great. The 8th seed in the East is always, well, okay, we're here, so you're not very motivated by what you see at the 8th seed in the East, but nonetheless, they are an NBA basketball team. The Bucks do have to bring their A game, but this series should be a sweep. I hope the Bucks get out of it without any injuries. Brogdon can heal up. Nikola Mirotic can heal up, so when they meet Boston next round, we can get what we deserve as fans of the game. Lastly, Rockets and Jazz. The MVP, my MVP, however, 29, 8 rebounds, 10 assists. You could just tell, the Jazz were trying to let Harden go past them, so you can feed him to Gobert. When you give that guy, that many options, you're writing your own obituary. I mean, I'm watching Ricky Rubio and Jay Crowder, whoever they put up against him, he's blowing right past them. So at that point, they just started feeding him to Gobert, and he's either throwing up a floater. He can do it with the right. He can do it with the left. As soon as you want to get back in front of him, he can step back for that 3. And I have to say, there was not one 3-point attempt Harden had yesterday where I didn't think he got fouled. The Rockets lost the free throw battle, but still somehow, had sizable lead after lead. So it's just very frustrating from a defensive standpoint when you try to play Houston. There's not much you can do against Harden. And then when he gets to going throwing lobs to Capella, or you have, guys like House or Gerald Green sitting on the 3-point line, PJ Tucker out in the corner, he can just dish it to them and they're knocking down threes. Eric Gordon, this team is so hard to beat. I kid you not. I really have them beating Golden State because I believe they just made the perfect pickups at the perfect time. The team is gelled. You can just see when Harden is off the floor. Chris Paul, we all know what the point guard brings to the table. I believe Kenneth Faried was the perfect addition. I mean, this is a guy that was on Team USA. The only thing that was wrong with him was he wasn't getting any minutes. So now he's getting minutes on a championship caliber team that is going to need him. He can be on the floor when they play small ball, can shoot the 3, can pick and roll, can play defense inside. So you match him up with Capella, or you can take him off the floor and put PJ Tucker and go a little bit smaller. Eric Gordon running the 3 in the starting lineup. I really believe in Houston, man. No disrespect to the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell, I think, is a great talent. Will be one of the top players in our league for years to come, as we saw last year. And I actually had Utah getting one. I believe they'll get either Game 3 or Game 4 in Utah. But I have the Houston Rockets winning this one in 5 and moving on to Golden State. Moving on, we'll do our predictions for Game 2s now. Tonight we have the 76ers and the Nets. I believe, Philly will bounce back. The crowd will bring it. I do think Ben Simmons will still struggle shooting the ball. But after this phone scandal, I just believe Embiid is going to be on his worst behavior. I expect a 30-15 type game. JJ Redick, who got fouled out, I expect him to be on his A game, around 20 points. I think Jimmy Butler will continue to play with that playoff intensity. And I expect Tobias Harris to have a better game along with Ben Simmons. So I'll take Philly in game 2, and we'll head to Brooklyn with the series tied 1-1. Next, you have the Warriors. The Warriors and the Clippers. I believe the Warriors will continue their dominance, go up 2-0. What else can I say? You know what they bring to the table. Raptors and Nuggets. I believe they'll even the series up on Tuesday. I just believe those two seeds are too talented to go down 0-2. Now, I do believe the Raptors have the better matchup, but I think the Nuggets, a little bit rattled coming out. DeMar DeRozan and Aldridge have been there before. Out west, they're playing, teams like that. So Pop knows what to bring to the table, how to coach those guys through the week. So for the Nuggets, I just believe it's a growing process. I do think they'll bounce back, though, and even the series. The Blazers, I believe they'll go up 2-0. Like I said, I have the Blazers winning the first 2 games. And then OKC running the table. I do think this one, we will see OKC do better from downtown. I believe Steven Adams will be Steven Adams. But I do think with that Portland crowd and Dame playing the way that he is, Portland will go up 2-0. Wednesday, I believe the Celtics will take a 2-0 lead. Just believe they're too talented. Was watching Inside the NBA, and something Charles Barkley said actually stuck out to me. He said, "There's only so much you can do when a team is that much better than you are." I mean, let's just admit it. Even with Oladipo, the Boston Celtics are a better team than the Pacers. They're greatly coached, even though the Pacers are as well. But I mean, I'm taking Brad Stevens over Nate McMillan. Like I said, best guard out east, and then just a better bench. I mean, there's not much to argue here. Celtics going up 2-0. I believe the Bucks will dominate again, go up 2-0. Not much the Pistons can do. I hope they make it competitive so it's watchable. But this really reminds me of, Cleveland versus Boston when IT got hurt. I mean, I'm not comparing Blake Griffin to IT, but I just look at that team and, I'm just watching Langston Galloway and Ish Smith shoot threes and, Drummond getting ejected. I'm like, this is over. So I got the Bucks going up 2-0. And lastly, Rockets go up 2-0. The MVP, my MVP, continues to do his thing. I believe the Houston crowd, will bring it. Chris Paul doesn't have to do all he needs to this series. You have those guys, House and Eric Gordon, who can bring it up for you. So I've got Houston going up 2-0. And we'll head to Utah with a 2-0 lead. Switching over to the NFL. Off-season workout starting today. Now, a couple big names that could be holding out. You look at Jadeveon Clowney in Houston. You have Charles Harris in Denver holding out, wants a new deal. But the biggest names come out of Seattle. One, Frank Clark. Frank Clark played out of his mind last year. He has informed the Seahawks that he would like a new long-term deal. But something that is also of their concern is Russell Wilson. Today is the day Russell Wilson gave the Seahawks the deadline that he would like a new deal. In addition to that, now there hasn't been any indication that Russ will be sitting out. I don't see Russell Wilson as that type of guy where he's going to sit out. I see Russell Wilson as a leader. Once his mindset is, hey, the season is here, that's what it is. Not time to talk contracts. I understand the business part of it, but I just see Russell Wilson as a guy who wants to win. He's always been that way. Now he's determined as this team's leader with no Richard Sherman, no Earl Thomas. The LOB is gone. Bobby Wagner, we know he's the best backer in football. And Frank Clark, like I said, has stepped up. Has even become the more vocal leader of that defense. But as far as the team goes, they know they go as Russ goes. So I believe, I hope the Seahawks are able to get it done today. I haven't heard any rumblings of them getting the deal done, but I hope they're able to get it done because this is a franchise guy. This is a top 5 quarterback. This is a guy that's been to 2 Super Bowls, got you one, should have got you another one. So you need to go ahead and handle this. Speaking of contracts, though, we have Adam Thielen, who received a 4-year extension, 64 mil, 73 million max, if you can, max out on all his incentives. In addition to that, 35 million guaranteed. Now, when looking at the wide receiver market, we know this contract will have a big payoff as far as receivers getting their contracts coming up soon. You can look at Keenan Allen, Mike Thomas, guys like that. Which really made me wonder, what are my top 10 receivers going into the 2019 NFL season? Number 1, I have Antonio Brown. The stats don't lie. I know he's going under a new change. He's going to be playing in a new city with a new quarterback. But when you look at that guy, I mean, whenever he's on the field, you know what you're going to get. 5 catches, I believe, in I don't know how many straight games. Leading the league in catches or yards, one or the other every season, or touchdowns. That's what he did last year. So AB is gonna be AB. I have no doubt about that. He's just too good. Number 2, I have Julio Jones. I always usually put AB and Julio right neck and neck. You have your last year. Julio led the league in receiving yardage. Started to turn it on with the touchdowns at the end too, and that's what teams and the media likes to hype up. But we know what Julio brings to the table. Unfortunately for me, I feel like Matt Ryan is the worst deep ball thrower in the NFL. But I do believe Julio is the second best receiver in the NFL, and he's able to take a lot of that pressure off Matt Ryan. When in doubt, just throw it up to number 11. Let him go get you one. Number 3. Until proven otherwise, I have to put Odell Beckham in this spot. Anytime Odell plays, it's just like a different aura. Something I take very dearly and hold to my heart is the eye test. When you watch Odell, just the swag that he plays on the field with, how much the media touts him and how much the camera is on him when the defense of his team is on the field. Odell is just that good all the time. Now I believe he's playing with a place that he feels motivated. He knows that nothing is handed to him. He went from the biggest market in sports, in the NFL rather, to maybe the smallest market in the NFL. But him, Jarvis, and Baker, I feel like they will make it box office. You will want to turn on your TV and watch the Cleveland Browns this year. Yes. I didn't think I would be saying it neither, but they did make some big marquee trades, and number 1 starts with Odell Beckham. I believe you will see him back on, his level doing what he does. Number 4, Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas is just special, man. When you think of top receivers in the NFL, you look at, Antonio Brown, Odell, Julio, guys who can catch one on a slant route and go all the way. Now, I don't see that out of Mike Thomas, but the way he just kills you with methodical, and I love that about Drew Brees. It's always been that way, going down the field, who his number 1 option is, but he's going to keep giving them to him, and he loves when you put that one-on-one matchup with him. And with the Saints, you have no choice. You have to respect Kamara out the backfield. You just have to respect Drew Brees as a threat. Honestly, he can put the ball anywhere, so you can't really double Michael Thomas. And when you don't double 13, man, I mean, you have problems all game. The comeback, slant routes, ends. I just watched Mike Thomas lead the league in catches last year, game after game, giving teams fits, drive after drive. When I looked at Odell, it was every week I felt like he was breaking some new record. And now I look at Mike Thomas and he's breaking all those records that Odell is breaking. So when you look at Mike Thomas, I mean, this guy is the real deal. And I believe that number 3 spot is legit up for grabs this year between him and Odell. Number 5, DeAndre Hopkins. We know with DeAndre Hopkins how special he is. Some people may feel like 5 is too disrespectful. I believe he is 5. Just was named first team All-Pro with Mike Thomas for this past year. Didn't have any drops reportedly. I thought I saw him drop one against Philly. I may be wrong. They may have counted as deflection or whatnot, but we know what DeAndre Hopkins brings to the table. I do hope Will Fuller comes back to full speed, can take pressure off him so we can continue to see DeAndre Hopkins be that star that he is. But if not, we've always seen him fight through the double teams and do it with bad quarterbacks. But I believe this is the year him and Deshaun really get things going and put themselves on the map as a top NFL quarterback wide receiver duo. Number 6, very underrated in my book, Mr. Davante Adams. Best release in the NFL, as far as I'm concerned. Just watch that guy get off the line week after week against top cornerbacks. I mean, I'm sitting here watching him, give Richard Sherman that work on that Monday night game, or Patrick Peterson, Xavier Rhodes. When I look at Davante Adams, man, I know Rodgers is special. People define him as the best quarterback to throw a ball. But the way Adams just gets open, I mean, Rodgers puts it on the money, but 17 makes it happen. I do hope they get some help out of Jimmy Graham and stuff so Adams could get more one-on-ones. But even if not, Rodgers is going to give him a shot, and Adams is going to make teams pay. Number 7, Tyreek Hill, most explosive weapon in the NFL. I hope nothing comes from this situation with the domestic violence. I mean, of course I hope that it's handled correctly, but I don't want to see one of the NFL's most prominent playmakers, miss time over something like that. We saw with AP. I just want to see Tyreek Hill continue to ball out and continue to stay on the right path, man. Let's keep our stars out of trouble. Number 8, AJ Green. Now, we know what the red rifle Andy Dalton brings to the table. I mean, when you look at Cincinnati, it just frustrates you that after all this time, Marvin Lewis is just now getting out. There's been reports that they want to trade John Ross. They never really maximized what they had with John Ross, so I hope this year they are able to. But when you look at AJ Green, man, I mean, he's the closest thing in the NFL as far as I'm concerned, to Julio Jones. I just think he could use a change of scenery. But, you watch games like that Baltimore game on Thursday night, AJ Green going for 3 touchdowns. Or the next week you turn on the Red Zone channel, he's going for 80 yards. AJ Green is special, man. Let's not kid ourselves. He's definitely still top 10. And I expect him, if fully healthy, to bring it this year. Number 9, Mike Evans. Now, with Mike Evans, I believe Bruce Arians is about to make this guy look like a star. I mean, I already know Mike Evans is a star, but what Bruce Arians did with Larry Fitzgerald in Arizona, I believe we're in for something very special. Just bringing Mike Evans in the slot more, being able to get him more catches than he is on a more efficient rate, because Mike Evans does get a lot of targets. So I believe Bruce Arians will have that connection between Evans and Jameis where it's clicking and clicking and clicking. Better jump balls, better back shoulder throws, just better play designs to get Mike Evans involved. And I do believe that this will be a career year for Mike Evans. Lastly, number 10, I'm going to have to give it to Keenan Allen. When I look at Keenan Allen, this is a guy who at any given time can put up 150 yards on you. I'm very proud of what I've seen out of Keenan Allen, as he was injury prone, but these last 2 years he's been able to stay healthy, and I believe that's why the Chargers have been so good. I do have the Chargers being one of the top teams in the AFC this upcoming season, and I believe Keenan Allen is a big part of that on the offensive end, along with Mike Evans and Melvin Gordon for Phillip Rivers, but it all starts with Keenan Allen. Some honorable mentions. Mr. Adam Thielen himself with the contract extension. Stephon Diggs, who I feel like is borderline, best route runner in the game, up there with AB and this next guy, Amari Cooper. And I do think, Dak could be a little better, but from what I saw out of Amari Cooper, going for 150 and then 150 and then 150 and 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns, that guy's special. Definitely deserves recognition as one of the game's best. And T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is very underrated in my opinion. When him and Andrew Luck are on the field, they're clicking. When he had to deal with Jacoby Brissett, he would still get the job done. So I believe T.Y. Hilton is a top wide receiver option that we need to respect. And my sleeper, my 6th man out of my 10 for my 11th man for next year, Juju Smith-Schuster. Number one option in Pittsburgh. Going to be taking the bulk of AB's targets. I believe Ben will, out of spite, try to make Juju look that much better. All this buzz AB going around about how Ben was a bad leader and Juju got on his nerves or whatnot. Ben is going to make sure that goes, that is taken into consideration going into this year. Juju already was, I believe, top 4 in receiving yardage for last year, was named the team's MVP, much to the chagrin of Antonio Brown. So expect Juju to have another career year. Lastly, we'll switch over to the WWE, as tonight's Monday Night Raw will start the Superstar Shakeup. WrestleMania season has just ended, and every week after the Raw after Mania and SmackDown after Mania, WWE holds a Superstar Shakeup. This is probably my second favorite. Well, it's definitely top 5 event in WWE with the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber and Mania, of course. But when I look at the Superstar Shakeup, I mean, there's so much that can happen. They can bring up guys from NXT. They can bring in new free agent signings that they've just been holding on, or guys that's been on the shelf. So stuff that I'm excited for. You typically see the US and IC champs switch brands. I would like to see that. Samoa Joe back on Raw, possibly feuding with Braun Strowman. We saw that on SmackDown. You have Finn Balor going to SmackDown, where he will be taking the Intercontinental Championship. Now, as fun as that would be to see him defend that over there, we need the Balor Club. We need it. We need it. We need it. Keep Gallows and Anderson over there, AJ Styles, and have them be the trio that runs it over there. Because I do believe we could see the Undisputed Era debut on Raw. You can't have both of those on the same brand. Maybe compete off against each other at Survivor Series, but can't have them on the same brand. What else could I see happening? I don't see them moving Seth or Kofi. I think those champions will stay set. With this big Fox deal coming, I do believe WWE will be looking to move superstars to SmackDown. Number 1 for me is Roman Reigns. I do believe that they'll be moving Roman Reigns to SmackDown. With Dean Ambrose leaving, you have 1 Shield star on Raw and 1 on SmackDown. I believe Roman Reigns will be that guy. In addition to that, I've heard rumblings that Brock Lesnar could be moved. You know how that goes typically with Brock Lesnar. Mania season's over. He's dropped the strap, so he may not be back around till SummerSlam. You never know. So we just have to wait and see. But switching off the guys, I want to talk about the women. It looks like they're combining the women's title into one. In addition to that, the SmackDown, not the SmackDown, but the women's tag team titles, they're also doing something with that. So it looks like those are going to be, for both brands, which I'm totally for. I mean, of course, you don't have as many women's wrestlers as you do guys. You have to bring legends back. So I just do believe that's a good look. But what I would like to see WWE incorporate is a mid-card title. I believe it's way overdue for the women that they get a mid-card title, just so we can get those extra little matches at pay-per-views and stuff like that. Storylines on Raw and SmackDown. Would like to see that. Moves I could possibly see: Sasha Banks to SmackDown with all this rumblings of her leaving. I could see Sasha Banks moving to SmackDown. I could see Bayley moving to SmackDown. I just believe one of them has to go so they can be that number 1 star over there. I'm excited to see what happens with Becky Lynch. If they officially name what's happening with this SmackDown Raw Championship thing, Lacey Evans is looking like who they want to bring up. You still have Asuka, Charlotte Flair, so very excited to see where that goes. But yes, you also have the Usos, so I'm interested to see what they do with the tag team division. The Bar, who looks like they may be performing, bringing together a new stable with Drew McIntyre. So excited to see that. I want to see Shinsuke Nakamura, be Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know what they've been doing with him. Hopefully Aleister Black and Ricochet go single, but I don't know. There's so much that they can do. But that is going to be ending our episode today. This has been episode 2 of the Dishhhtribute podcast. Very happy for the reception that we've been getting from the community as far as the first episode goes, and the likes on Twitter and Instagram, and the shares and the comments. We just ask that you guys keep it up. Biggest thing for me, like I said last week, is authenticity. So just want to be able to bring that week in and week out, giving you my thoughts from my mouth, genuine thoughts. So I appreciate the feedback, negative or positive. I hope you guys keep it coming. Again, this has been episode 2 of Dishhhtribute. I am your host, Damon Geis, signing off.